Lamar Jackson has the Tampa Bay Buccaneers praying ahead of the two teams matching up on Monday Night Football. We talk about how the teams match up with each other and so much more coming up on a Game Day Edition episode of Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another edition of Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. I'm your host, Kevin Ostreicher, Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for being here today on this Monday, this game day, making Locked On Ravens both a part of your day and your first listen each and every single day. Your friend available for you on all podcasting platforms. That includes in video form on YouTube, where you can like and subscribe. Also in audio form, you can follow along and subscribe over there as well. Both video and audio. We're 5 days a week plus more of daily Ravens coverage. Same show, whether you watch in video form or listen in audio form. Today's episode of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by Hillsdale College. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost and it's easy to get started. Hopefully everybody enjoyed their stress-free Sunday, and it is game day today. The Ravens and Tampa Bay Buccaneers will be facing off in Florida. And man, should be a really good game. Maybe a lot of points in there, the way that both offenses have been performing recently and just over the course of the year in general. Today we're going to be diving into, first of all, Lamar Jackson literally having the Tampa Bay Buccaneers praying that they can stop him. We will talk about what a former player said who now is on Tampa Bay's coaching staff, but had a lot of praise for Lamar, but had some say, you know what, said we're going to need some prayers here. So we're going to talk about that in the first part of the show and kind of how you stop Lamar. The answer is, well, first you got to pray. So we'll talk about that. Then in the second part of the show, we'll dive a little bit more into just obviously the matchups, how Baltimore matches up with Tampa Bay on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball as well. Then finally, we'll get into some final predictions. We'll do players to watch, keys to victory, and more stuff we've talked about over the course of the last couple of days. Had a couple of great bonus episodes over the weekend. So if you haven't checked those out, be sure to go back and listen to those. We talked about some of the latest happenings in the league and just across the Baltimore Ravens landscape over there. So let's dive into it here. If Larry Foote sounds familiar, that is because he was a thorn in the Ravens side for a little bit over there with the Pittsburgh Steelers as a linebacker. He was on those teams, you know, Troy Polamalu and James Harrison and Ike Taylor, those teams, those Pittsburgh Steelers defenses. Well, he is now over in Tampa as the pass game coordinator defensively. I know that, you can have pass game coordinator offense. He's their defensive pass game coordinator. And when asked about, how to stop Lamar Jackson, all, his skill set and everything that entailed, Larry Foote, first of all, very complimentary of Lamar in multiple different ways. But this comment might be one of the best examples of, first of all, the respect that Lamar has from, his peers in the NFL, players, coaches, but also just kind of like the vibe around Lamar right now, which is he's playing great football. So Larry Foote said, quote, "First, you got to pray. You just got to pray. You got to hope and just wish. It's going to take a group effort." Talked about how, when he's scrambling and doing his thing and, shoestring tackles, you got to pray then. Was confident they have a game plan for him, expressed that obviously. He's not going to go out there and say, "Oh, we're terrified of Lamar. Like, please help us, please." No, I mean, obviously, Lamar Jackson's a scary guy to play. Like, he's playing great football right now, MVP type football right now. He has an incredible skill set. And for any defense, this is the type of stuff that we have been talking about on this show for years. I mean, literally, it is a nightmare to prep for Lamar Jackson, a nightmare to try to stop Lamar Jackson. And we hear over and over again from, national media people, fans of opposing teams, whatever it may be. Oh, Lamar can't do this. Lamar can't do that. Lamar's easy to stop. Lamar this, that. Lamar this, that. No. Lamar has the respect of the league, has the respect of his peers, right? We hear current players, former players, current coaches, former coaches. Everybody's talking about Lamar as, he's great. He does so many great things. And of course, there is player speak element to this, but this is not people trying to like cover up or anything like that. Like people respect Lamar. People respect, we use this word a lot here, the gravity that Lamar Jackson has, because obviously his athleticism and his abilities is what takes him far, right? His arm, his strength with his arm, what he's able to do with his arm, his passing ability, plus the rushing ability. That combined is what makes Lamar Jackson so hard to stop. And we talk about it where you can have him and you can do everything right, and you can have two people there waiting to tackle him and, push the Ravens back 7 yards, and he will get out of it. He will make something happen. He will move around. He will deliver a strike. He will run for a first down, whatever it may be. This is the way, and this is how people feel. I mean, this is how people feel in the league about Lamar. And so looking ahead to this Monday night game, it's coming up. It's like, man, all these defenses have to worry about now an offensive unit that does have Lamar Jackson and that threat. But then, now they added Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry is playing like he's 25 right now at age 30. You got Zay Flowers, you got Rashad Bateman, you got Isaiah Likely. All of those players. We'll talk a little bit more in the second part of the show about, personnel matchups and actual rankings defensively and offensively for both these teams. But this is the first example, or maybe not the first, but it's one of the most, how do I want to say it? It's one of the most out there examples of, like, right in front of your face, these coaches are literally saying, man, like, we just have to, we have to pray it works out for us. And again, I want to make it clear, Larry Foote did say that they think they have a good game plan. They're confident this, that, and the other. But saying that, you got to pray, I know that a lot of teams feel that way. And I'm sure that to an extent, Larry was kind of like, oh, haha, you got to pray. But it's true. Like, you have to be able, and I think a lot of people do understand this about Lamar and kind of the way that the game operates when he is in it. It's just so different. We hear all these comparisons. Oh, well, this guy's the next Lamar Jackson, or this guy is better at blank than Lamar Jackson. Usually people try to bring down his passing, right? That's kind of the age-old thing we've been hearing over the course of his career. But he is literally one of one, and he just has continued to get better. And this version of Lamar Jackson is the best version of Lamar Jackson that we've seen. Because in the past, I mean, like every quarterback, this is not just limited to Lamar Jackson. Like every quarterback, he's had to develop. He's had to get better. He's had to improve areas of his game. He's had to grow areas of his game. That is not a Lamar Jackson exclusive, everybody. That is what all quarterbacks have to do. And so we have seen the decision-making improve. We have seen the feel for the game improve. We have seen him grow with each year he has been in the league, like every single quarterback. And so his abilities, both as a thrower and as a runner, make him so unique and so dynamic and so hard to defend. And so he can leave you in the dust. I mean, it seems like every time he runs, or every time he throws, or every time he puts any ability of his on display, he's going out there, and teams and players are just like, what do we have to do? What do we have to do to stop this guy? Because that's the demoralizing thing. That's why you see so many people try to bring him down. They can't do it. They finally get to him, and all of a sudden, they're like, wait, the ball's, he threw the ball? After all that, no, it's a jump ball touchdown, or how do you place the ball there, or how do you juke me out? That's the thought process, because it's so difficult to actually stop him. Anybody can be stopped. Anybody can be. But it's a lot more difficult to do it with some players and others. And for Lamar Jackson, it has proved extremely difficult over the course of his career. And now, the way he's playing, right, at another MVP pace this year, teams are like, man, what are we going to do here? They feel confident, of course, they do. But at the same time, you have coaches out here saying, man, we kind of just have to pray and hope, because he said if in all these situations, there are areas that, Lamar can kill you in. And those shoestring tackles, they have to go your way. Getting Lamar down, that has to go your way. Then after all that goes your way, still have to deal with Derrick Henry, still have to deal with the other offensive skill position players. So it is just a conundrum. It's a conundrum that these teams have to go through each and every week trying to stop this Baltimore Ravens offense. Coming to the second part of the show, we'll talk about how the Ravens actually match up with the Bucs heading into Monday Night Football today. So we'll talk Ravens offense versus Bucs defense, plus, of course, Bucs offense versus Ravens defense. Stay tuned, plenty to talk about here on Locked On Ravens. First, this show is sponsored by BetterHelp, and there are a lot of things that scare a lot of people. For example, like we just talked about, for a lot of teams, stopping Lamar Jackson is a little bit of a scary thought. You know, you kind of shudder when you think about it if you're an opposing team staring down Lamar Jackson. But Halloween lets us have fun with what scares us. But what about those fears that don't involve zombies and ghosts? Therapy is a good tool for facing your fears and finding ways to overcome them, because sometimes the scariest thing is not facing our fears in the first place and holding ourselves back. And therapy has so many different benefits, whether it's learning positive coping skills, how to set boundaries, empowering you to become the best version of yourself. And it isn't for those who've experienced major trauma. It's for everyone. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. All you have to do is fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist. Switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. Overcome your fears with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. And the show is brought to you by Hillsdale College. Time is our most precious commodity, so don't waste it scrolling through the same mind-numbing content for hours and hours. How can you spend it wisely to improve yourself? Our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free online courses, including Constitution 101, Introduction to Free Market Economics, The Great American Story, Land of Hope, and so much more. And maybe you're into science. The Great Principles of Chemistry is another great course that Hillsdale has to offer. All of Hillsdale's courses are self-paced so that you can start whenever and tune in wherever. Plus, you can go deeper with readings, quizzes, discussions, or just enjoy the lectures. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost, and it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register. hillsdale.edu/lockedon. We're back for our second segment, Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher still here with you on this game day edition of the show. Really appreciate everybody for, again, tuning in today, making Locked On Ravens both a part of your day and your first listen each and every day. We have 5 days a week plus more of daily Ravens coverage, so be sure to like and subscribe in video form, follow along and subscribe in audio form as well. We'll be right back here after the game again later tonight, right as the game ends, talking about everything that happened for our instant reaction episodes. So be sure to stay tuned for that and tune in for that. You know, we'll talk win, lose, hopefully not ties, but we will do it in a tie. I do not like ties. Been very vocal about that, but should be a very exciting game. Let's talk about how these teams match up a little bit. Why don't we? This Baltimore offense is on a heater right now. Absolute roll. Lamar Jackson, as we've mentioned, is playing at an MVP pace. Todd Monken is really finding his stride, it feels like, as Baltimore's offensive coordinator. Derrick Henry is doing Derrick Henry things, and you have multiple pass catchers stepping up the way that you need them to. The offensive line playing really well. I mean, everything is clicking at the right time for this Baltimore Ravens team. They have the top rushing offense and the top passing offense in the league. I'm going by net yards per attempt. They average 8.1 yards per pass and 5.9 yards per rush. I mean, that's incredible. That's insane. Like crazy, crazy good for this Ravens team. And for the Ravens, this Tampa defense, we have talked about it. They struggle with play action. They are very low down, bottom 5, bottom 3, bottom 2 in a lot of different categories against play action. And we saw last week against Washington how effective that can be. We have seen that this play action game from Baltimore, especially when you have your run game going, is so, so effective. And so when looking at Tampa, their defense is a defense that you can get away with running the ball on a decent amount here. I mean, they are the 24th rated rushing defense in terms of net yards per attempt, giving up 4.7 yards per carry. Their pass defense is almost top 10. It's number 11, 5.8 yards per attempt. But if you can establish an early ground game, Derrick Henry, you use Justice Hill in spots. But if you just batter them on the ground early, they will have to do what Washington did, which is stack the box up, try to stop it, and then you can float the ball over their linebackers in play action. You can still run your heavy sets, but if you want to run 2 tight ends with Patrick Ricard out there maybe in heavy personnel, you can work play action off of that, and it's still is going to be such a dangerous weapon for that Ravens offense, because then you leave guys one-on-one like Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman, and then those two can do their thing. So we saw on full display in week 6 what that looks like. In week 7, I would expect them to try to do more of the same. Now, a big injury, and at the time of this recording, we don't know what the deal is with this, but Vita Vea, the Buccaneers, one of their best defenders, again, one of the top defensive linemen in his league, he's questionable now with a hamstring injury. Did not practice on Saturday. Was a late addition to the injury report. At the time of this recording, we don't know if he's going to play or not. That would be a monumental loss for the Tampa Bay defense. He's one of the few guys that gave Tyler Linderbaum struggles, or gives Tyler Linderbaum struggles. And part of that is he's just a big dude. And like that throws off some things sometimes. But I mean, man, that would be massive, because he also is a pass rusher. He does some good things, but obviously as a run stuffer, he's great. He's awesome at doing that. So to me, I think that, again, if Vita Vea plays, that's fine. Like, they're going to have to stop him, but he has 3 sacks this season. He's tied with 2 others for 3 on the year. So it's Logan Hall and Levante David as well as Vita Vea. That'd be big. That would be big. So I think, to me, establish the run early on the ground for Baltimore on offense. Not let them get any momentum defensively, right? 3 and outs, all that. Put yourself in 2nd and 2s. Put yourself in 2nd and 3s. Don't put yourself in 2nd and 9, 2nd and 10, right? You don't have to get too cute with this whole thing. Their run defense struggles. They struggle against play action. I think there's a pretty straight ahead game plan for that. Now, on the offensive side of the ball for Tampa, we know how Baker Mayfield's playing. We do. He is in the MVP conversation right next to Lamar Jackson. He's having a great year this year, completing over 70% of his passes, 15 touchdowns on the year, which leads the league. I mean, he's doing his thing. He has Mike Evans, who is not on the injury report after kind of, was kind of like, oh, is he playing? Is he not? He's playing. Is he not? He's not on the injury report for tonight, so he will play. Chris Godwin is there too. So Baltimore has to be able to stop. Well, maybe not stop, because it's kind of hard to stop those types of guys, but slow them down as best as possible and let someone else beat you. It's kind of the same game plan that we've been talking about for practically the whole season here on Locked On Ravens. It's like, okay, these guys are stars. It's going to be tough to stop them. Try to send the house and make someone else beat you, right? Because I'm a lot more confident in, Sterling Shepard not beating the Ravens than I am in Mike Evans or Chris Godwin not beating the Ravens. Again, you have those 2 stars, so it's going to be tough, but try to slow them down as best as possible. And as Sam Njoku said on our Friday episode, just try to be aggressive, right? Try to be aggressive in this game. I think I'd like that for sure. Tampa, we don't know if Rachaad White's playing on the ground in this, but Tampa has found a really good running back in Bucky Irving. Rookie Sean Tucker played a role for them last week. So you look at their passing offense, and actually their rushing offense is 4th in the league, 5.3 yards per attempt here. But passing game, it's 11th. But I think for this, the stats don't tell the whole story. I just don't think they do. So it's going to be a really intriguing matchup, because for Baltimore's secondary, we know the struggles that they've had. We know Baltimore's run defense is out of this world. Top run defense by a very wide margin. But you look at the yards per attempt for Baltimore's passing defense in the 27th. They're giving up 6.9 yards per attempt. They need to cut down on the big plays. Do not let this Tampa Bay team gash you for 20-plus yards every other play. Don't let them do it. Hold them. The bend don't break for defenses happens when they bend in the first place. There's obviously going to be some level of bend, especially against this really good Tampa offense. But I think, to me, if you can slow down the ground game, force Tampa to be one-dimensional, you can not worry about what happens on the ground and focus more resources into defending against the pass. So should be a great game either way. Again, I expect a lot of points in this game, and coming up in the final part of the show, we'll talk about some final predictions, key storylines, players to watch, and so much more. Stay tuned, lots to get to on this edition of Locked On Ravens. First, this show is brought to you by FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So if you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bets for the Ravens and Bucks game here Ravens 3.5-point road favorite. So if you like the Ravens from the road favorite aspect, or maybe you like the Bucs from the home underdog aspect, be sure to choose your side over on FanDuel. Just visit FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com. And this show is brought to you by DK Law Group. When you need a law firm, do you want the legal runaround, or would you rather have a no-nonsense approach? You get the latter with DK Law Group. DK Law Group specializes in real estate law, estate planning, business law, and family law. They're tech-savvy. They treat clients like family, and they focus on keeping your legal solutions simple. DK Law Group is a woman-led firm with Diana Khan at the helm. Diana has been called an unparalleled legal expert by some. One of the things you'll quickly notice with DK Law Group is their transparent pricing. They believe in clarity and costs and no one left in limbo. DK Law Group knows that speed is key. By leveraging technology, DK Law Group streamlines the process to serve you better and faster. Contact DK Law Group today, dklawmd.com. Locked on, let's listen, call today. It's scheduled a free 30-minute consultation when you mention the tagline, Empowering Legacies. We are back, our final segment here of Locked On Ravens. Kevin Oestreicher still here with you on this game day. Ravens and Buccaneers squaring off on Monday Night Football. Appreciate everybody again for being here today, making Locked On Ravens both the part of your day and your first listen each and every single day. Be sure to subscribe and like this video in video form. Follow along and subscribe in audio form. 5 days a week plus more, a daily Ravens coverage. And again, a reminder, we'll be going live right after the game here to break it all down. If you can't catch it live, be sure to watch and play back both in video form, or you can listen in audio form as well. We'll be out there also. Now, this one is going to be a good one. I'm really looking forward to it. This is the Ravens' third primetime game in 7 weeks. So again, the Lamar Jackson effect certainly is real, right? There was no questioning that in the first place, right? But man, you got a high-flying Ravens offense, a high-flying Tampa offense, two defenses that have their strengths and weaknesses. It feels like it's going to be another good game. And the Ravens, this is just another stop on their early quarterback gauntlet that has featured guys like Patrick Mahomes, somehow, Raven enjoyer Gardner Minshew, who enjoys playing the Ravens apparently. But, then you get guys like Dak Prescott. And then week 4 brings you Josh Allen. You got Joe Burrow, Jaden Daniels. Now it's Baker Mayfield. So, man, a lot of good quarterbacks on that list. So I think, obviously as the weeks go on, there are going to be, less and less of those guys. But these are the types of guys you got to beat to get to where you want to go, right? These are the top quarterbacks in the league, and you have to beat those guys in order to win. So that's what it's going to be. Well, let's talk about some keys to victory here for this Ravens team. First of all, as we've talked about, shut down the star wide receivers. We talked about these for a couple of shows, but I just want to, remind people, got to be able to shut down Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. And are you going to be able to completely shut them down? That might be a little bit of wishful thinking, but you got to stop them as best as you can. So again, that means winning one-on-one if you're a corner. If you're a safety, for example, Marcus Williams, who we've talked about, playing zones effectively and not letting guys beat you deep. And going hand in hand with that is forcing bad Baker Mayfield throws. Force Baker into some mistakes, and part of that is getting some pressure on him, forcing him to speed up that internal clock and just making life difficult on him in that way. And then finally, no mistakes here. Cannot have mistakes. As we've heard and as we've talked about, a lot of people are dubbing, who's the Ravens' biggest opponent? Who's the Ravens' biggest threat? And a lot of people are saying, well, it's themselves, because there's a lot of mistake football that happens. And maybe it's like, if they do this differently, if they do that differently. So I thought last week, pretty decently low mistake game. So that is the type of energy they have to be taken into this one as well. I mean, that is it. And sound offensive game plan, sound defensive game plan, like a lot of different things that have to go right for the Ravens. But there are also a lot of things that have to go right for Tampa. And so if the Ravens can out-execute Tampa, so minimal penalties, right? I think that's going to be a big part in this. Penalties always play a factor, and it's unfortunate how big of a factor they play, especially when they're not warranted penalties. As a lot of people know, the referees can have influence, but this is what I always say about this, right? Do not let the game be in a place where the referees can influence the final score of the game. Like, take care of everything else. And if there's a penalty or two that's called against you, and with the Ravens, that tends to happen a lot, there's a penalty or two that's called against you that maybe isn't really the right call. Don't let that be a factor in the game by doing your job on all the other stuff And so then that call doesn't have gravity. So that's going to be a really, really big thing. Some players to watch in this game. I put Rashad Bateman because I just think he's playing great football right now, and I'm really intrigued to see if he can continue this. I certainly have confidence that he can. But these last 2 weeks, I've thought that he has worked into his role really well, gotten in his zones, helped out Lamar Jackson, become essentially a security blanket of such for Lamar, getting open. So all of that is just really, really encouraging. Isaiah Likely is a guy, too, where I know had the big week 1 breakout, and everybody's like, oh, Isaiah Likely. But he's still playing a big role for this team, and he has to be accounted for. And he obviously, if you remember, a couple years ago when the Ravens went down to Tampa, Likely was a rookie that year, and Mark ended up not being able to do his thing. And so Likely was in there, and he did well. So Isaiah Likely's a guy I'm watching. Roquan Smith, too. I know it's been kind of an up and down year for Roquan this season. It's definitely not playing up to the Roquan Smith standards that we all know. So, yeah, at the end of the day, Roquan's a guy that this team needs to be playing at the Roquan Smith level that everybody knows he can. I know there's a lot of conversation about why he is not playing the way that everybody's been so accustomed to. So we will see if he has a good game here against a really good Tampa offense. And then we go to final score. Let's go final score. I got the Ravens 34-30. I put this out on Friday's show and have not changed my tune on it. I think 34-30 is the way. I think we're going to see a lot of points in this game. I think that there is going to be a lot of fireworks defensively. I think it's going to be a little bit of a struggle for both teams on some way, shape, or form. But I have more confidence in Baltimore's defense stopping Tampa than I do in Tampa's defense stopping Baltimore. And I could easily see a way where the Ravens win by double digits and the Ravens go and Lamar Jackson improves to, again, 23-1 against the NFC in his career as a starter. So I'm picking the Ravens in this one. Tampa's a really good team, and they're going to be a really tough out in the NFC this season. But right now, based on everything we've seen, look, they put up 50 points, Tampa did last week, but that's against the New Orleans defense that got absolutely rocked and has been getting rocked. So this is going to be, I think, an offensive showdown, but one that I think the Ravens will come out on top in. That's all I have for you here today, though, on Locked On Ravens. Thank you so much for tuning in today on game day, and we do game day episodes. But again, this week is just lined up that game day is regular scheduled programming, but usually we do have other Sunday game day episodes that we do, but we are 5 days a week for you here on Locked On Ravens, Monday through Friday, plus more. We are going to be live after the game. Be sure to stay tuned and tune in for that. After the game, we'll be talking about everything that happened, win, lose, or again, hopefully not draw. So be sure to stay tuned for that. I'll see you right back here soon on Locked On Ravens.